Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Live with me, Richard Vobes. We are live from Worthing, and we're continuing with our book reading this afternoon. I'm a couple of minutes early. I apologise for that, for those people who go, oh my God, there he is. Lift Luck on Southern Roads by Tickner Edwards is what we are reading, and we must be a quarter of the way left to do. We must be, yes. So that's all good. And just a couple of things to tell you about before we get going, but I want to make sure everybody's here, of course. So meanwhile, let's say hello to TurboStream, a good afternoon from all the Shire of Dreams. I hope you've been having some nice dreams over there in the Shire, which would be great. Justine Jones is there. Hello from sunny Bristol. Billabong O'Neill, good afternoon from the Shire of Flatness. John F., hello to you. Lovely Julia, hello. Charlie Cooper, good afternoon to you, Charlie. Mark Donny McLeod, good to see you. My goodness, I'm early. Ha! Well done. So am I. Julia Hartley says, I notice that you've taken over my role of arriving in and liking these readings lives. First, Adrian. Joseph gets more and more of a handful these days. Yes, I know. Well, we know that. He's approaching the terrible twos. I'm sure that he will be the delightful twos, in fact. The Green Man. Good afternoon, the Green Man. We were standing outside the Green Man only this morning, in actual fact. A pub of that same name. How funny. Afternoon from the dark woods of Surrey. We were in the wild weald of West Sussex. And Diana Rolfe, hello Richard and chat. Nice to see you. Thank you for coming along. TurboStream, I like to run from the front. Lee Lawson, I had to stop and start again. The reading didn't start. Sorry about that. Yes, I just thought this is a bit of like a nonsense preamble just to ensure everything's all working for everybody. Thank you for coming along. Philip, Hammond and Mary, good afternoon. Mary and Philip, I'm wearing your lovely jumper. It was cold in the studio, and I took my other sort of commercially jumper, and I put your jumper on because it's far warmer. I don't know what you do with this wool, but it's much, much warmer. This is lovely wool. I'm slightly nervous about putting it through the washing machine. I don't want it to shrink. The other one didn't shrink. But it's so soft, it has yet been to be washed, but it will need washing. So what are we? I cycled past a pub called the Green Man earlier too, says TurboStream. How bizarre. So before we get going on that, two books arrived when I got in from our walk today. So I'm lining up books well in advance for our reading, based on authors that we have read and one that we have yet to read. So this is another one by, do you remember we did The Lure of Sussex by R. Thurston Hopkins? Well, I've purchased Sussex Pilgrimages by him. And so it's another jaunt around Sussex. I hope people won't mind too much that it's in Sussex. But it does look like a nice jolly old one of our jolly jaunts. So that is good. So that's lined up. And as you know, Justine Jones sent me a copy of On Sovereign English Roads by, what's his name? Hissy. Who's having a hissy? James John Hissy, which will be our book that we read next. And I'm very much looking forward to that. And I had a sort of little gander inside it. I haven't read it really, but I've read a few pages from it at random. And on the strength of that, I was just curious to see what else he'd written. And he has written a number of books, a number of travels. And another one he's written is Through 10 English Counties. So this was about 18 quid, but it's I think it's another first edition. And it's another one with a joy. Look at this. Priest Tower at Stokesay. I do love these pictures. Here, have a look at that. It's probably not in focus because the camera's got a fixed focus on it at the moment. But that's the Priest House. I know, I've been there. I've been to Stokesay Castle. It's up in Shropshire, just up from Ludlow, in actual fact. Here it is. Look at that. Isn't that great? that is a somewhat exaggerated picture, I think. I don't think it does look like that, but I don't think it's quite as tall and narrow. But anyway, there's another one of his, and so I've hedged my bets that will be another one to read a bit later on through 10 English Counties. And even if it isn't, I think through my mind I am thinking very much with the van that these places are, these books are ones that I want to follow. Sorry, just look at this. Just some beautiful, that you can't really see it from back there, but that was the Bell Inn at Tewkesbury. But anyway, and Sean James Cameron, of course, had sent me another one by Tickner Edwards, which we will get to in due course, which is Neighbourhood. And that's a year, I think, in the village that he was in. So some amazing books. Sorry about the preamble, but there we are. Yes, so there were printed some of these wonderful books, and of course, if you do come across any and you think they might make an interesting read, and you think that I might be interested, do send them over. I can't promise to send them back. It's a bit like Vision On. We cannot promise to send you back your paintings. Do you remember, what was her name? Pat Kiesel. Pat Kiesel. I worked with her son once, years and years ago. Pat Kensel, I think it was. Anyway, there you go. Look at that small world. Diana Rolfes used to go to the Bell at Tewkesbury. I've only once been through Tewkesbury. It's a lovely place. Floods quite a bit, I understand, or at least down on the plain. Love to go back. Love to take the camera. Got my eye on a nice camera to do these things next year in. So hopefully we will. I got some ideas on making the videos and things so much better than they are at the moment, but that's for another day. We left ourselves halfway through a chapter, or towards the end of a chapter, because time was against us. It was chapter 16, and I can't remember exactly what happened. He where was he? Oh yes, that's right. He'd gone into the woods, and there he'd met this man who had a love problem. And he said, well, I will write to you. Do you remember? I will write to you, and you don't do a thing until I've solved the issue. And he wants to go in search of Clara, I think, is what's going to happen. You must go again. So much history, says Diana Rolfe. Wasn't, what's his name? That helps. You know, the one they always quote from Tewkesbury, the historian, but the monk from 13th century or something. What was his name? Somebody in history, and they're always quoting, not the one of Monmouth, because clearly he was from Monmouth. Anyway, let me just finish my coffee and we'll crack on. If anybody wants to purchase any of these lovely Veg Grower podcast mugs, you're very welcome. Yeah, but I don't sell them. Right, so... oh yes, here we go. So he sorted out the bloke who he thought was a groom, wasn't he? And then he pushed off, and he went to Little Cot the next day. Oh, that was to be the Saturday. That's right. But I think he was. I'll just reflect on the last few bits here, just so we can catch ourselves up. Sitting alone in the inn at Titherley, a little later, over a quiet cup of tea, I was able to enjoy a new sensation in my travels, that of having something to do awaiting me on ahead. I found from a map that Little Cot lay about 5 miles southwest of Winchester, not greatly out of my way. By pushing on tonight as far as I could conveniently get, I might easily reach Little Cot in the afternoon the next day. But that would be Saturday, and I had long promised myself a rest on Sunday. How would it do, I pondered, to break my rule for once, as to a village route, and to spend Sunday in the old cathedral town. So I arranged it, therefore, and having got that off my mind, I strolled out to take a look at the village. It was just on the verge of twilight. Behind the woods, the clear western sky glittered like a sheet of gold foil, with a single pale star marking where the gold faded into the grey above. In the east, the moon was brightening, a perfect human face, deprecatory, supercilious, and rather stupid. Depreciatory. Excuse my bad recognising words. There was no direct light, only this steady contention of silver and gold upon everything. That was neither the night or day. Perhaps if I ever go back to Titherley in broad noon, I shall find it bereft of the enchantment, almost the intoxication that it had for me on that mystic wan November evening. I forget how we pronounce wan. It's such an old word. Is it pronounced one? That mystic one November evening. But as I saw it then, it might have been the mirage picture thrown from fairyland. In that twilight light, every cottage seemed of an unearthly perfection in colour and form, and each one grouped with its neighbours in a composition ravishingly beautiful, yet looking as if it owed its existence to the touch of some magician's wand. The old grey church, among its high elms, seemed no mere church of stone, but a living, watchful thing, at once mourning and rejoicing. A herd of cows, winding slowly through the street, lost their reality and became only coloured shades that formed and faded, and formed again under the glowing obscurity. Overhead, in the elfin sky, swept company after company of starlings, incredible numbers of them, whirring vast multitudes, going straight for the cover of the wood. I could not believe them to be mere birds in that radiant, transforming dusk. They were more like spirits of darkness, each bringing his little swat distaff that together would weave the mantle of the night. In this topsy-turvy mood, I had wandered the length of the village street, put about dreamily, and come idling back towards the inn. A curious vehicle had arrived in my absence. It was very much like a gypsy's caravan which I had encountered at Kingston Durreville, but infinitely more respectable. It was dark and shiny, and covered all over with big white letters, Bible texts of the most combative kind. As I was trying to decipher these in the fast-gathering darkness, I became aware of a black figure at my elbow, and a friendly voice remarking on the beauty of the night. In the glow of the van lamps, I made out a tall, trim young clergyman, whose teeth and eyeglasses flashed pleasantly as he peered into my face. "Perhaps," he said, pulling on his gloves, "you'll be kind enough to direct me to King's Somborn. I have a meeting near Stockbridge tomorrow, and I must get on thus far tonight. But dear me, I'm very sorry. I'm sorry. I mistook you for a hustler. He was here a moment ago." Not a half hour earlier, I myself had been inquiring of the landlord of the way to that very place. I was therefore fully primed. "Sir," I said, doffing bonnet to him, "I know the very way well, and am myself just starting for the same place on foot. You must take the left-hand road, veer to the right, and then—" Here he interrupted me, which, truth to tell, was what I counted on. "Why, how very lucky. Would you have any objection to taking a seat on the van? I'm quite alone. Besides, my old horse and I are nearly as blind as bats, and we shall be glad of an extra pair of eyes." That was one of the sweetest times I spent on the entire journey. The missionary van had easy springs, and we crept along through the moonlit lanes at the gentlest pace. I found the missioner full of thoughtful, good things, altogether a splendid travelling companion, but his greatest charm was his power of silence. He had a way of conversation wholly independent of speech, so that time and again, without a word between us, I knew that the same thought was stirring in both our minds. King's Somborn must have been about 6 or 7 miles away, and I enjoyed to the full a good 2 hours of this eloquent, mute companionship. That he found pleasure in it too, I had in the end sufficient testimony. Drawing near to the village at last, he turned to me with the friendliest of looks. "We are Wesleyan folk, you know," he said. "I am to seek out a good brother here, who is to let me pitch for the night in his meadow. But how are you going to fare?" I told him that there were no less than 3 inns, so that I need not fear should I lack accommodation. "But look you," he urged, "you have not talked half enough, and I have set my mind on showing you the very passages in Kempis that you disputed. There is a vacant berth in the van and plenty of blankets. Why not accept a lonely man's hospitality?" And thus it came about. And in the midst of that quiet night, I woke, gazed out through the little foot-square window-hole at the stars, and lying long awake, thought at last I could hear the winter-slow sheep bells, silvery and slow on the first soft breath of the morning. That was the end of that chapter. How are we doing out there? Excellent. Lots of people out there, which is nice. Chapter 17. The meadow where our van had brought up for the night lay a little to the west of the village. My first view of King's Somborn by daylight therefore was obtained as I passed through it, going, as usual, eastward, after taking reluctant leave of my kindest of hosts. There was a freezing wind, half a gale perhaps, blowing in from the north, and though the sun shone, it was but intermittently, its colourless beams piercing here and there the white vapours that drove across the sky. Whether it was due to the cheerless night, or the harrying ill humour of the blast, or the fact that I was once more turning my back on a new won but already valued friendship, I did not pause to inquire. I am willing now to believe that these alone were to blame for it, but King Somborn by no means favourably impressed me. Its one serpentine thoroughfare was too wide, giving to the houses on 2 sides of the way an air of only distant terms of acquaintanceship. Besides the parish church, several small places of worship, variously labelled, stood at different points in the street, indicating a more subtle disrelationship. I turned up my coat collar, buried my cold hands into my pocket, and trudged on, deciding that King Somborn lacked the humane, pull-together spirit which was inclined to clichés and pretty variances, and was a place to get out of in such a mood and on such a morning with all convenient speed. A mile or so beyond the village, I overtook a cart piled high with babbins. What the hell is a babbin? A dark melancholy load. On top of the brushwood, babbins must be some sort of wood. On top of the brushwood lay the driver with his chin in his two fists and a tobacco pipe sticking out between them. I could see no more of him for his big slouch hat. By this time I had walked myself into a glow of mind as well as body, and had got back something of the old wayfaring spirit. And as I passed under the rustling cargo of babbins, I shouted up the usual word of greeting, and would have gone on, but the cart stopped. An unshaven jolly face looked down upon me. "What say, mister?" I said it was a rough morning. "Oh, I see. I thought you wanted Farley Money Mint." "Farley what?" "The Money Mint. That there atop. Farley Hill. Farley Hill, as the folks here comes to see." "What sort of folk?" He looked at me rather disdainfully. "Oh, well, you know the sort in general. 'Tis a grand sight for them that knows the summit." "What is there to see, then?" "See?" He gazed dreamily over the landscape for a moment. "Oh, I believe ye, nothing, never nothing like it before, and never again, I'll lay." "But won't you tell me about it? Why is there a monument there?" He took his pipe from his mouth and pointed at me impressively. "'Tis no good talking of it. You must see it for yourself. Now, I be going along there. Get up then, mister. Welcome. Lay hold of that rope. Now, one foot on the shaft and the other on the foreboard. So 'tis. Give me a hand. Sharp sticks. Aye, there you go. There be. There, comfortable as king on a castle. Gone Jerry." I lay my hand upon the buttons in imitation of the babbing man. In fact, it was the only safe posture on that swinging, trembling height. Then I found it difficult to hold my head up without support, so I got my fists under my chin as he was doing. The strong, cold wind threatened to bear my cap away. I had to pull it over my eyes. From that to the pipe was an easy and natural transition. So there was a pair of us voyaging down a Hampshire lane, a fellow feeling making him at least wondrous kind. But I could not extract another word as to the monument mystery. He parried all questions with the same good-natured shrug and waved his pipe. Obviously he had a sense of the dramatic and wished only the revelation, whatever that may be, to come on me with all the telling force of a surprise. Jerry toiled up a steep lane with us into the village, which the babbin man told me was Ashley, a little bevy of comfortable human nests all deep in the wild wood, and he lowered us gently down the farther hillside. The road got narrower the deeper we went. A grassy track sprung up in the centre. The surrounding country took on an unkempt, backward-like appearance, a ragged, out-at-heels beauty, such as I had met with nowhere else. A peculiar feature of the road was its straightness. It took rise and hollow with the same direct imperturbability, going right ahead towards a steep hill, as though it would gather impetus for the climb. I didn't know it then, but afterwards I learned that this was one of the ancient Roman thoroughfares, the work of a people whose very thought and act seemed to have run in straight lines. At the foot of the hill, however, the road threw off a side stalk, and here the babbing man stopped. He was quite in a glow of exhilaration. "Look ye now," he said, "this be my way, and that yourn. You keeps along first stop of the hill, and you goes through that there little small copse place, and when you comes out on the pit down, why, there it is in front of your eyes." He lowered me down the scratchy sides of the babbin pile, chuckling richly all the time. As I went up the hill, I could hear the same fat chuckles behind me, and just before I got to the trees, he shouted something which I could not catch. He shouted again, Where are the chalk pit?" I looked about for pitfalls, but there was nothing of the kind, whereupon he sent up to me a final bellowing laugh and drove off. With a sense of that I was being made the butt of some local jest, I pushed on through the little wood and out upon Pit Down. There was the monument, sure enough. It was a sharp-pointed pyramidal thing, about 20 feet high, standing on a round grassy knoll like a prehistoric tumuli, itself forming the summit of the largest part of the down. Drawing near, I could see that there was some sort of inscription on the pyramid, and coming nearer still, this is what I read. Underneath. Oh, where are the chalk pit? Underneath lies buried a horse, the property of Paulet St. John's Esquire, in that the month of September 1733 leaped into a chalk pit 25 feet deep, a fox hunting with his master on his back. And in October 1734 he won the hunter's plate on Worthy Downs, and was rode by his owner, and entered in the name of Beware Chalk Pit. Pit Down was a bleak and barren and lonely spot. The north wind careered over the green waste of it, hissing like surf in the dry grass bents underfoot. My curiosity as to the monument was soon satisfied, and I turned my back on it, making off down the road with head aslant in the fierce cross wind. But the day was gradually bettering. The sky was clearer. There was quick, sharp blasts of sunshine now and again, and the birds were plucking up the heart to sing. I covered perhaps a couple of miles of that undeviating Roman track, and then, tired of the strife of the wind, resolved to give up the fight for a while. Here the hedgerow was dense and high. I sat down under the lee of it, mopped my tears from my cheeks, and got out my largest and most consolatory pipe. It was wonderful what a difference the thick holly hedge made. The wind charged overhead like a regiment of cavalry, but below I sat in almost perfect calm. In addition to this, the sun now swam into a clear space of blue, and struck down on me with a generous warmth. "Cheer up," it seemed to say. "It's only November. For all it is so cold. If you begin to shrivel up now at the first unkind breath, what will you do when winter comes, when there really is something to complain about? I have no patience with you mortals. You have no more heart now than a nightingale. I remember the time when you went barefoot in half a goatskin, and there wasn't a wind in heaven that could daunt you. But nowadays you swaddle yourselves inches thick in wool all year round, and shiver to death every time a cloud gets in my eye. The fact is, you don't fight enough. That was the way men used to warm themselves and each other in the brave old days, and there is nothing like it properly done. But you moderns make even fighting a dead cold business. Once upon a time it was hard, not work, killing. At the end of it, killer and killed were about equally out of breath. But in these silk-mitten times you must stand 2 miles off and slay your man with the wag of a finger. No wonder you think it's vain and an unsatisfying world." I had no quarrel with the world myself by then, sitting in the snug hedgerow shelter, regaling on the 2 best things in life, tobacco and sunshine, to my soul's content. Up in my green chimney top, the wind roared harmlessly. On the road before me, the leaves twirled on the edge. There was a glimpse of a distant violet dell and wood and clustered cottage, easily in my range of view, for the trouble of a little neck craning. Let me read that again. There was a glimpse of distant violet dell and wood, and clustered cottage easily in my range of view for the trouble of a little neck craning, and every moment a lark got up in the fallows behind me, singing as though it was an April day. I felt a little ashamed of my late want of sturdiness as I listened. The world was still full of sunbeams that had soaked into it all through the summer. This was only a cold snap in early November, and well the larks knew it. They had not silenced their merry pipe, though at the first chill flaw I was as mute as a molting owl. And now, in a break of lark music, there was borne to my ear another kind of singing. I looked down the road and beheld a man striding along, a ragged man with a basket on his back and long hair and beard blown about by the wind. He had his arms behind him and his eyes in the sky, and was chanting a wild, weird melody as he came. He didn't see me lying in the brown fern under the holly, and doubtless would have passed by if I had not hailed him. On such a journey as engaged me, then one grows instinctively shy of the professional tramp. Not 1 in 100 has anything further to recommend him than an occasional coarse or slinking humour, and a more than occasional thirst. But this trossel-maned minstrel with the basket somehow appealed to my fancy. I called to him that it was a weary work travelling on such a blusterous morning, and invited him to sit down with me a while and rest. The song ceased. The singer stopped, looking at me for a moment in dark suspicion. Wild eyes he had, and an undeniably dirty face. He wore a black felt hat, much battered, and incredibly high in the crown. Loose triangular tatters fluttered all over him like the bunting of a dressed ship. While he stood glowering at me, the wind seized the hat and all but made off with it. Its owner recaptured it deftly in mid-air and crammed it back down again over his ears, but not before I had had an impressive view of an enormous dome-shaped bald head. He still hesitated. It is sheltered here," I said, persuading him. "It is warm and dry. We are both solitary travellers, and a man is all the better for a little company once in a while. Come, sit you down. Let us talk of life and love, poetry and freedom, old songs and old times, and forget a while the wind, the world and the devil." It was a lucky hit. A smile transfigured his dark face. He drew suddenly nearer. "Listen," said he, a hand tremulously raised. "I was singing it just now, and I call it the Golden Gibbet." Oh, here we go. Here we go. Stand by. "God hid it deep in the kind dark earth, the yellow devil-made glittering dross, unfired, unminted, nothing worth, and Satan mourned his loss. And I've made of it such a lure, quoth he, and as lured all men to the gallows tree. 'Tis deep, 'tis dark, 'tis hard to find, no mole is man to look for it there. Thus spake the serene, eternal mind, while there is living gold in the air. Green earth and azure and golden sun, what can they buy? Sneered the evil one. The devil he dug the whole world through, and found only iron and copper or lead. At length in the country churchyards drew, and grubbed among the dead. I never thought of sacred ground, quoth Satan, and now 'tis found, 'tis found. The golden gibbet groans in the wind, willow and orphan are sore oppressed. Greed drives the coach up and behind, vice stands in, Satan dressed. Gold coach, gold scourge, gold gallow tree, but God's son gold for you and me." I don't know whether you understood any of that. Oh my God, there's another one. I'm not very good at poems, I've told you before. I'm not very good at ringing. He sang it in a husky, yet rich and deep and well-produced voice. He beat time all the while with his upraised hand. And when he had done, he sat down beside me, his lean fingers clasped around his knees. "Do you love music?" he said suddenly, after a mute interval. "Ah, if I had my guitar here, and my voice, but they are both gone years ago. I did very well then, made all my own songs and travelled far and wide, singing my bread and butter out of people's pockets. Lord, what brave time that was. Now life is all silence and watercresses." He was arranging the little green sodden bundles in his basket as he spoke. He fell into humming absent-mindedly, and gradually the humming became articulate. He burst forth again. "If for a year and a day you were given the round earth's way, the seat of the pearly throne, all human souls for your own." I don't know the tune of this, so I'm sorry about that. "Legions of angels to work your mind, what would you do for poor mankind? Would you give back the dear lost dead to lonely hearts that bled? Youth to the stress of years, joy to the unquenching tears, and love grown cold in the dust of the earth, would you quicken it to a second birth? To the starving children food, grace to decrepitude, sunlight to the blind, faith to the doubting mind, would you grant to the toiling throng and press the boon of eternal idleness? Nay, through the din and strife, you would see but the one ill life, for loveless, joyless, poor, world-weary and heart-sore, guileless pain and dwindling faith, but the one true panacea, death." Okay, we'll go with that. There is another one. I'm warning you, there is another one. It's not yet 5 o'clock. I cannot escape. I had listened first with astonishment, and then with a certain uncanny dread prickling my scalp. Yeah, I know how you feel, mate. There was no mistaking the power of the man. He sang quietly enough, but with a underswirl of emotion breaking the calm surface of the music with fierce little cat-paw crests. And the tune itself was all hopelessness and sadness. It was pitched in a minor key with a drooping refrain at the end of each verse. I wish you'd told me that, because I would have mastered it instantly. That took the very colour out of the sunshine. "Come now," I remonstrated, sitting up uneasily. "You never won your bread and butter out of such mournful, aesthetic stuff as that." Aesthetic? Aesthesiastic? I don't know. "And a guitar too? Why, there is only one kind of song that can go with it. Was there no springtime? Were there no lads and lasses in your day to call the tune?" "'Tis true," he said after a pause. "I made that song long after, and the old guitar never heard it. But it heard good many of the sort you mean. There was one. You would not think that I had ever been good-looking, would you?" "Yes, assuredly." "And full of hope and rich and young blood?" "Never a doubt." "And all in all to a woman, and she to me?" I was silent, but he seemed to press for an answer. "Well, all these things are links in the chain of life. All these things are links in the chain of life, and..." He caught me up. "A chain, yes, and the chain of life generally breaks, doesn't it, somewhere or other, because there's always a weak link. One could make a good song out of that." He sat so long with his fingers hooked round his knees and his eyes on the horizon that I began to think that he'd forgotten all about the old song in pursuit of a new. But he came back to the subject presently. "Yes, that was a bit brave. Yes, that was a brave bit of work, and many's the shower of coppers it drew. But the first time I sang, I'm sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm struggling here. Yes, that was a brave bit of work, and many's the shower of coppers it drew. But the first time I sang it, I got more than money, though there was only one to listen. Just make believe that you can hear the old guitar throbbing and sobbing, and you'll understand it better. He still sat as still as a stone, but for the heave of a rag on his breast. The music in him welled up and overflowed, and I've never heard so restrained yet so passionate a delivery. And here is the song. God help us. How many verses are there? I must pass on the lonely road, the strange... I have no idea how to sing this. I must pass on the lonely road, the stranger crowd for me. If love be waved one rosy plume, 'twere more than misery. More than the strife of wind and rain, the sleety tempest roar. Farewell, sweet eyes of tender blue, I dare not see you more. Wearily, drearily, why is the sun so bright? If hearts but meet to part again, 'twere better sullen night. When first I saw your lily face amid the gaping crowd, the song it died upon my lips, my heart cried out aloud. For home and ruddy inglenook, for joy of wife and child, and never more to wander in the naked, cheerless wild. Wearily, dearily, why shines the sun so bright? If eyes but meet to glance away, 'twere better sullen night. O sweet white maid of Somerset, why linger Crawley near? I sing for bread and music, bought and sold is doubly dear. When all the April woods are blithe with heaven's music free, why listen while a huckster drives his trade in melody? Wearily, dearily, O callous glittering night, if hearts but meet to part again, 'twere better sullen night. The song is done, the staring crowd have gone home and in, but none but the dust-grimed minstrel lingers on the village green. None, as he turns to wander on the plodded nomad's pace. There are the eyes of tender blue, the snow-pure lily face, sweet and grave, shyly brave, O glad transforming night. God. Sweet and grace, slyly brave, O glad transforming light. Where love and pity interlave, there's neither death nor light. Lie, little shining silver piece, on my heart forevermore. Stamp with a queen's head, gift of a queen dear than miser's store. I'll sing for you, I'll live for you, in the same grave we'll lie, and wait till those eyes of tender blue win black their native sky. Joyous rain, love's refrain, in storm or glad June light, and love in the toil of the sodden lane, the chill of the winter's night. Thank you. Please, no more singing. That's dreadful. The words died away in the roar of the wind overhead. Long we sat together, mute in the sunny tranquillity. And then he changed a sigh into a cough. It was COVID, and he nodded off. Oh, no, I made that up. The weak link, he muttered, is always the weak link that spoils everything, for it looks as strong as the rest. You'll never know till it breaks, and the irrevocable will come to pass. I must make a song out of that. He was fumbling in his coat pocket while he spoke, and now produced a hunk of bread and cheese done up in an old newspaper. "Dinner time," he said apologetically. He talked on as he ate, telling me of tales on the road, of his adventures, of odd people that he'd met. But he said no more about the Maid of Somerset, and I could not question him. When he'd finished his meal, he stretched himself out on the grass and fell to studying the newspaper with that curious hat like a heavy gun projectile pulled down over his eyes. As for me, I sat in the warm sun considering many things. It was a little black box of a cart, which I now beheld creeping down the road towards us, that finally got me out of my difficulty. As it drew nearer, I saw that the man sitting in it was as black as the cart, and the pony in the shafts perhaps the blackest of the three. It was a chimney sweep, going on his rounds, and now, luckily, wending in my direction. I scrambled to my feet. I must be going, I said to the Whilom minstrel, for here comes my carriage. We shall do a little trade together. Shall we do a little trade together by way of a goodbye? Will you sell me that newspaper? He looked at what I held out to him and hesitated. But it's quite worth it. But it is worth... He looked at what I held out to him and hesitated. But it's quite worth it to me, I urged, getting hot all over. You'll see. It will save me double or treble cost. Hi, will you give me a lift along the road? The sweep pulled up with a broad grin. There's room, he said, as soot-bags is soft to sit on. Aye, that bain't an ill notion. Ye'll ride clean enough now. The newspaper was a 20-page... Oh, I see. Has he put the newspaper on the seat? Is that what's gone on? Sometimes he is a bit coded in how he deals with events. The newspaper was a 20-page one. It would have lined the whole cart if it need be. I made a travelling rug as well as a cushion cover out of it, and away we went. I found the sweep communicative enough on the matter of his own calling. At any other time I should have been glad to learn all I could about the trade, of which I knew only a little, but my head was still full of the Maid of Somerset. I could hear nothing but that yearning, ardent music, and think only of the story, but half revealed to me by the words of the song. Did anyone actually make out what happened in that song? I have no idea. I just tried to imbibe it. In this preoccupied state of mind, we had ambled along some miles before it occurred to me to ask whither we were going. Down by Lilkt. Down by Lilkt, returned the sweep in a rather injured tone, guessing apparently for the first time my indifference to his conversation. Down where? I asked, and was brought suddenly to attention. Lilkt, repeated the sweep, more shortly than ever. Little Cot. There 'tis. See the chimney and the red chimney post and the fags a flying? So, I was close to the place where lived my little postmistress Clara, and as yet I had formed no plans, had given hardly a thought to the matter of my promise to the love-sick groom the day before. Farley Monument and the watercress man had driven the thing completely out of my mind. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I've lost my page. That's not it. That is it. And yes, I'm reading so damn badly. I'm gonna finish there. That's the end of that chapter, by the way. Let's have a look and see. Sorry about that. My reading today is just abysmal. Been one of those busy days. I can't quite relax fully. So let's see what you've been saying. Mark Donny MacLeod says, "Look you, that reminds me of a teacher, the master of Nelson House. He was related to the dean of the college school. He would often send me from his class for being distracted and distracting." Yes, I'm not surprised. I don't mean that, not surprised. I mean, that's interesting. West of Winchester. Can anyone, where we're passing, Linda, I've handed kids to Chaz so I can do a bit of use on my PC. Oh, yes. Was at King Somborn, then pit down, Fairley Monument, now on the way to Little Cot. Yes, we haven't really looked at any maps or anything, have we? Well, I haven't, but you maybe have. Is it to the tune of John Wayne is a big leggy? I don't know that tune, Dave. Richard, have you looked at the monument? Shall we have a look at the monument? Let's have a look. What's it called again? Which monument is it called? King Solomon. Oh, Fairley Monument. I have heard of that monument. I think somebody suggested that I go there, actually, on a Bald Explorer thing. Sorry, I was just trying to get through the reading today. But let's have a little look and see if we can see, and see if the inscription is the same images. Oh yes, I have seen this. Well, this is completely unlike what I was expecting. Maybe that's a good picture. Why won't you grow to a size that we can see? Goodness sake, there we are. Oh yes, that's right. So it's on a is that a man-made mound, or is that I can't remember what he said now. I know he said it was about a horse that won the thing, the chalk pit, wasn't it? Beware the chalk pit or something. There it is. Look at that. That's interesting. That would be worth visiting. I'm sure somebody did visit it on the Bald Explorer group page, actually. Fairley Monument. Fairley Mount is a hill with the highest point in Hampshire. It's located within Fairley Mount Country Park, situated about 4 miles west of the historic city of Winchester. It is locally famous for being subject of a folk song, On Fairley Mount. It features in the line, On Fairley Mount the clouds drift by, rustling the trees. On Fairley Mount I wonder why, what troubles you and I. Blue is the sky and so are your eyes, oh, left alone on Fairley Mount. That's probably not the tune, but underneath lies the buried horse, the property of Paulet St. John Esquire, in that the month of September 1733 leapt into a chalk pit 25 feet deep, a fox hunting with his master on his back, and in October 34 he won the hunter's plate on Worthy Downs, and was rode by his owner and was entered into the name Beware of Chalk Pit. What I didn't understand from that is, underneath lies buried a horse. So the horse is buried under there. The horse leaped into a chalk pit 20 feet dark. Leaped into a chalk pit 25 feet deep while fox hunting. Presumably the horse survived because the following year they won this race, whatever it was, the Hunter's Plate. The folk band Contraband recorded Beware the Chalk Pit by Graham Penny, featuring the words, "There's a tale I tell to you, 'tis remarkable but true, of Sir Paulet St. John and his noble steed, an event, as you shall see, back in the 1733, on which Hampshire gentlemen should take heed. Beware chalk pit, as you go a-galloping over the downs, beware chalk pit." Yes, it's a catchy tune, isn't it? So that was it. Yeah, we've looked at that. Thank you. Please sing the next one, says Linda Kane. Yes, I did. I buggered that up, didn't I? Richard, have you looked at them? Yeah, I've done that. Love watercress. Yes, I love watercress. The boy who stood on the burning deck. Yes, very esoteric. Poor Richard facing up to his noir. Yes, I'm not good at poems. I really am not. I see another book going by the wayside, says Mark Dunny MacLeod. I love his forethought in buying the newspaper. Yes, did you see that coming as he saw the chimney sweep? I'll have the newspaper, and we think, what's he going to do with that? And of course, the horse had jumped into the 25-foot deep with his owner aboard on the fox hunt. He was buried, the horse, still got his rider on the back. Paulet St. John was rather proud of his horse, and the poor horse got the blame. What I don't understand is the horse didn't get injured then. Clearly the horse didn't. He fell into this, jumped into this pit, but they survived. Nobody mentions that except that he wins a race, and so clearly he must have done. So okay, we've got a couple of minutes left. So what's Little Cot like? then. Little Cot, Hampshire. Is it Little Cot? Littleton. Is it Littleton? I can't remember the sodding thing. No, Little Cot. I found laid up on a lane side close to the great main road of Winchester. Not Littleton. Little Cot. Didn't like Little Cot, though. Littleton is in Hampshire. Doesn't like Little Cot. Little Cot in Weymouth. Little Coat. Has anyone found Little Cot? Assuming the horse were fine from the chalk. Has anyone found that? Because it's saying, did you mean, let's have a look. Where's Littleton then? Yes, look. Hang on. Let's show you. Littleton is here, near the A34, near the M, near Winchester. He says at the beginning of the next chapter, Little Cot I found lay up in a side lane close to the Great Main Road to Winchester. Now, the Great Main Road back then must have been a version of the A34. Where has he come from? King's, what's the name? Somborn. And here is a place called Main Road. So maybe Little Cot is. I get the impression he was proud of the horse, tenacity and capability. Fox hunting seems to encourage hard riding, and any horse sturdy enough is valued for that. Little Cot is near Hungerford. Near Hungerford? That can't be the same one. That's in Wiltshire, isn't it? Hungerford is miles away. Hungerford is near Newbury, isn't it? No, it's not. It's up the A34. I've been there many times. Hungerford. There it is, Hungerford. Hungerford Newtown. It's not a new town. Oh, there's Hungerford down there. And there's a Little Cot near there, is there? Can't see that one. But he is clearly saying, so I reckon he's talking about Littleton, because there's Littleton here. The running horse temporarily closed, thanks to COVID probably. Let's go and have a look at the running horse. There's a couple of running horses there. But that's not what he means. We're in a modern state. That's ridiculous. Wait a minute. Let's get out onto the road here. Is that the running horse? Oops, gone too far. No, I've done it again. Bloody thing. That looks like a period place. The running horse. I don't know if he goes to the running horse. Who knows? Little Cot is a weird place, says Nigel Sadler. A weird place? In what way weird? But the running horse, is that significant, do you think, says Lee Lawson? Fox hunting. Little Cot House, Edward Moulding. Little Cot is another slumber well, I guess. Yes, that's what we're all beginning to suspect here. Something's amiss. I wonder if at Little Cot Inn. Little Cot Inn. Little postmistress, the story of the paperweight trump. Little Cot I found lay up a side lane close to the Great Main Road to Winchester. It missed the din and the dust of the highway only by a few hundred yards, but it was itself quiet enough. Sitting in the lunchroom, the common room of the inn by the window, I could hear the low roar of motor traffic, a deep sound much like that of busy London Street, but lacking in its continuity. Here it was a pulse beating us strong yet slow. Well, there we are. That's something for you. What's the word? What's the word for the sleuths? Sleuths. I kept wanting to say sludges. You sludges out there. That wasn't what I was going. That's not the right word. You sleuths. Little Cot, aha, zoomed in on the ladies for a mow, says the lovely Julia. Well, I just quickly to see if they were the running horses. The Little Cot, I know, is a bit of a sham theme park with a genuine Roman bathhouse in the grounds, says Nigel Sadler. But where? Where is that? Is that near Winchester? Paul Vernon, Richard, what a good chap you are during these dark COVID days. You cheer up so many people with your cheerful attitude. Oh, what a nice thing to say, Paul Vernon. Very kind of you. I do my best, you know. I do my best. I wish I could read much better. Some days better than others. It really bugs me that I cock all these things up. Edward Moulding says that's Little Cot House. I wonder if Little Cot House was once Little Cot Inn. Or is it just a myth? I lived in Winchester, turning my head round as I left as soon as I could, said Mark Donny MacLeod. Damn, I'm late. I'll catch up once the live is over. Fear not. The live is coming to the death. Mark Donny MacLeod says, catch you later, Richard, if possible. Thanks for the reading. My pleasure. Well, that's it. It's 5 o'clock. And that's it. I'll be back again tomorrow with more of the live reading. Thank you so much for joining me. We will commence on chapter, 15, I think is the next chapter. Oh, no, chapter 18. And we go to Little Cot Inn, the Little Post Mistress, the story of the paperweight, and triumph in postscript. And we must be now a fifth to go, something like that. Anyway, tomorrow it will be better. My brother went to Winchester, says Charlie Cooper University. It is a beautiful. Trying to think if I've ever done a video there. I've been there many times, but I don't think I'd like to do a video walking up the high street. Of course, the first time in COVID would have been the greatest time to go there when nobody was about, but I didn't get the chance to do that. Now would be all right, but I bet you it's busy. Anyway, that's it. Take care. Thanks for everything, and I will see you, if you're watching the Vobes Show, see you later. Otherwise, I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Tutty bye. Bye.